Welcome to Homeschool with BookShark. My name is Jana Cook, and I'm BookShark's community manager. Today, I'm joined with Stephanie Taleghani. She is a mother of one, and she's going to be telling us about her experience with preschool with BookShark at home. Stephanie, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jana. I'm excited to sit here and share our experience with you guys.
Before we get into the BookShark part of your experience, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your family?
So I am a mother of one. Her name is Sophie. She's a 4-year-old. We started BookShark with her when she was 3. I left the whirlwind of sales and marketing and long-term care to come into the chaos of motherhood, which I would not trade for the world. I absolutely love it. And in the meantime, we just love to travel. So I document our travels on our family travel blog Consistently Curious. And so we just kind of noodle around the world. Like I love teaching her about different cultures and trying different food and experiences. And we love to incorporate that into her learning as well. So I'm happy to be here.
So how did you, just on a little side note, how did you get to the point where you decided you wanted to do a travel blog?
Okay, so I actually suffered with severe postpartum depression, and I really needed to find an outlet because I felt like I had lost myself. When I decided to stay home, I, didn't have that workforce. I felt like I wasn't contributing anything, even though every mother knows that's the biggest lie ever. But in my mind, I had a hard time with that. So I found my outlet through writing, and I didn't expect my blog to take off at all. Actually, it was more of just like, I'm going to record our personal journey. And if I can give tips to anybody who wants to read, I'll be more than happy to share our experiences because we love finding more of like the unique things to do and highlighting just some like helpful tips along the way. And before I knew it, it turned into like it just turned into like my full-time job, and I love it. And it's been giving me a great outlet, a great opportunity for my daughter to be able to experience just so many things that we probably couldn't be able to do any other way.
That is exciting. I tell people that this was the year, well, we're now in 2022, but in 2021, I said this was the year that we were going to get passports. I'd never had a passport. I'm going to be 44. I've never had a passport. Didn't need one when I was younger to go cross borders, that were connected to the United States, but things have changed. And people kept saying, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? And I said, oh, we don't have a trip planned. We just want to get passports because in my mind, that's step one. Is I can't go anywhere unless I have a passport. So step one, get the passport. And so now we are waiting for one more. We have a family of 5. One more is waiting for her passport, and then we'll have them all in hand. And then maybe we'll start the trip planning. And we'll have to go to your website, which is, once again, for our audience, what's it called?
Consistently Curious.
Consistently Curious. Well, very fun. So you have had some world experience. And when you decided that you wanted to school your daughter at home, what were some of the things you were looking for?
So there's a few different things that came in mind. So she's my first. So I have never had any experience like with the school realm outside of myself being in school. So I didn't know, like, when do you sign people up for preschool? Is this what I want to do? Is this the route I want to go? So as I started like looking at different options, there was a few different things that came in mind that I wanted to do. I really didn't want anything technology based. I know that time will come. It's just something everyone's going to have to learn eventually. But starting off, I really wanted a foundation of like learning from books or just from another alternative. And she loves books, and that was one of the main reasons we opted for Bookshelf. Is she loves reading. I loved that they had an instructor guide with tons of different options and like games and ways to like little activities like, hey, do this fun thing, and it helps reinforce like a lesson that she just learned. I love that BookShark also like has just a wide, diverse collection of books. Like you're learning a bunch of different things. From one minute you're learning about like the Greek culture to like the continents, and some things I didn't think she was ready to learn, but she is. She's most definitely ready, and she's embracing it and engaging it. So I think we made the right decision. We absolutely love it. And as I'll talk a little bit further about how we are moving forward with some of our BookShark learning.
Now, are you personally an avid reader? I know that I've spoken with other parents who have used Bookshark and they love that their children are reading, but they themselves were not necessarily avid readers. And then using the program, they became avid readers.
So yes, I am an avid reader. I'm not as avid reader as much as I like to be because I'm reading other things, such as like Berenstain Bears and other fun books over and over and over. Tons of repetition on those. But I do in the evening when I do have a quiet moment to myself, I do like to pick up my books and read them when I can. So yes, I do. I loved reading that when I was young, and I loved as my mom read to me, and so I love reading to my daughter. So it's kind of carried on. So
I loved seeing my girls when they were little pick up a book, even pre-reading, and because they had heard a story so many times, I had read it ad nauseum, that they had memorized it, and then all of a sudden they were reading it to their stuffed animals, or they're mimicking that idea of reading aloud. And science and statistics prove that children who are read to have a love of reading and then they continue on reading into adulthood. So I just thought it was so amazing to see my children mimicking what I had mimicked as a child, and saw my parents do for me. So
my
it's a
daughter
beautiful
does
legacy.
the same. Mom, I'll read to you. I'm like, oh, okay. And she does. She reads to me. I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, look at you go. So, but because of that, though, however, she does want to read, and so that actually has really encouraged her to the point that she's like, I want to read, and so that's when we are starting to put in the next level of Bookshark into place. So because she is very much so now she wants to read those books and not just memorize them.
So let's talk about it. You did say that you introduced your daughter to Bookshark at 3, and the pre-K level that we offer is recommended from 4 to 5. So now she's 4. So what are you guys doing?
So we are redoing the whole program again, which is great because this time she's picking up on a totally different. She picks up on different things that she didn't pick up before. So like why we were learning letters and stuff before, now she's picking up on different things in other books, which is quite interesting. Like the sounds the letters make and how that goes together, or just picking up the different pieces of like history and what people do, and then she like making up her own stories of what's happening. And it's been great because then we start learning about a whole different set of things. Or now when I read her a story, there's more questions that she's asking me than I'm asking her. Like, what, mom, tell me, why did they do that? Why would that happen? And so it's been quite a fun time going through it again with her. And now it's really interesting because you can tell her strengths and her weaknesses and like what she really is interested in. So we kind of like hone in on both the weaknesses and the strengths. So we keep working on those interests, while also then we also work on the weaknesses that we need to work on. Like, oh, okay, we need to maybe get on our counting a little bit better or something of that nature. So
I do love how, as humans, we crave that repetition. And maybe as adults, we think we get away from it, but really we don't. We'll rewatch the same sitcoms. We'll rewatch movies. I'm not a huge rereader of the same books, only because there's so much good literature out there. I feel like there's not enough time. I have only reread one series in my entire life, maybe two actually, but I hear sometimes parents say, oh, we've already read that book. Oh, well, we looked at your program, but we had already read most of the books in that level. But the beauty is, even you're demonstrating that a year ago when you started with your daughter, she was in a different place developmentally. You were in a different place, starting brand new to homeschool, not knowing, what to expect. And so now when you're redoing it, you both are having a totally different experience, even though you're holding the exact same books in your hands.
mm-hmm, very much so. And just rereading them, um, a book that's been on the shelf for a year can have a whole new different life and meaning when you open it up again the next year with a 4-year-old. I mean, it truly is. Things that like I never would have thought she picked up on, she picks up on this year. And the questions she asks are just, I mean, they're great questions. Like, oh, like we opened up our atlas. Oh, well, how do you get here? Well, that's a good question. How do you get here? Well, before it was like, oh, look at the elephants and the animals that live in this continent. Now it's like, well, how are we going to get there and go see those elephants? And what do
Right.
they eat? And things like that. And it's just a totally different experience this time around.
Yeah. So when you shared with your family or friends that you were going to be homeschooling your daughter, what kind of feedback did you get initially?
Um, I honestly, I didn't get too much of a. I got some concerns with oh, they're not going to have the engagement they need. They're not going to have the social skills. But you're also going to be able, and then in the same breath, they'll say, oh, but then you'll really be able to focus in, and she'll be able to get all the attention she needs and focus in on what she wants to learn and how you can really hone that learning. So it was a mixed bag, honestly. My mom's 100% on board. She loves it, even though she sent us all to public schools. She very much so sees the positives and the benefits of that homeschooling. And I can get into a little bit more of how we have incorporated enrichment programs for Sophie. I'm not worried about her social at all. Let's put it that way. I'm not concerned about that. So, but yeah, it was a mixed bag, honestly, receiving it, because you have some people, well, you're going to miss out on so much at the school. Am I though? So
Yeah, as a homeschool mom of three, there are times where I had to say no to so many things. Like I felt like I was saying no more than I was saying yes because I needed to be home and actually go through the curriculum with my children. Like as in this day and age now, granted, the pandemic has put a stop on some things, but as you and I both know, there is creativity and flexibility in homeschooling that the public school doesn't have. So even in the midst of restrictions, there are so many things that we can do um, as homeschoolers that you just don't get when you are in a brick and mortar type of
Mhm.
situation. So you did mention that she is doing enrichment, and that is one thing that I think the biggest misconception with homeschoolers is there's not any socialization. And so go ahead and just talk a little bit of how you've incorporated that in with Bookshark.
So we take her out a lot of times for enrichment programs. Like we meet up with families. Our museum offers a homeschool program. So like we have our natural history museum. So many of the parks will have like come for homeschool day, and like even the skating rink has a homeschool day. Like everybody, I mean, the thing is, it's interesting because it's something that unless you're actively seeking it out, you won't notice it, but it's there. You just got to go find it. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups where like we meet up and have meetups with our friends, just to even just have that socialization piece. But for the big ones for us is just like meeting up at museums where it's like they're actually having a program for them where she's learning something, but in like a school environment with other kids who are homeschooled. That's huge. So that way she's still getting that kind of that learning with friends, which is very good.
Yeah. I think it's a hidden treasure that a lot of people don't know there's resources out there for homeschool families. So even starting off young, that there is stuff available. Sometimes I think now as I'm homeschooling teenagers that there is more available for the younger ages where it's a lot of fun stuff. And then as obviously the academics get a little bit more rigorous as you age up. So I understand that, but sometimes I miss the play dates. I miss the the fun
The
things.
best age to homeschool. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. And you know what? You just sit there and think about how many resources are now. Like you get on on Facebook, there's so many Facebook groups of support and moms and meetups, and like you can join 100 the homeschool groups and just get so many different resources and so many different, depending on what city you're in. It's just incredible how many different options there are all over the place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's go back to the beginning. When you were looking for a preschool curriculum, you had said that your daughter loved books. Was there anything else that you were looking for that Bookshark met that need for you?
The instructor guide was a big one. Having that instruction, because I did not know what I was doing. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I'm not a teacher. That was not what I went to school for. I can do so much Pinterest, and then that's not my strength. I mean, I can be creative when I want. but having that outline to help tell me what to do next. Use this as an option, an optional activity if she feels like doing this. Having the flexibility to be like, you know what, she's not feeling this today. Try this tomorrow, and maybe try this, substitute this out, or you kind of just have so much flexibility. And that was a big thing that I was looking for as well, is just having that flexibility to, because she was only 3, and then she's still only 4. Um, you know what? If it's not going to work in the morning right now, we'll try again in the afternoon. She tends to do a little bit more better with like having a schedule, and that works really well for us. But sometimes the schedule gets thrown off with one of her enrichment programs, so we got to make sure we just alter around that. And I like that flexibility, and that's something I was looking for, and BookShark provided.
I think one of the components of the pre-K program is how much play is involved. And what people may forget is that children learn while they play, or they're also digesting what they learn while they play. So while you're giving them a lesson from the instructor's guide, and then maybe you're setting them up with the blocks, or you're going to go reinforce that with an activity, that is learning. And I think
Very much
we
so.
somehow in our society, we forgot that kids should be playing.
No, very much so. And one of the things that I thought when I initially read on the BookShark program, they said, well, if the kid is playing and you just read to them out loud. I'm like, they're not listening. They won't understand that. Oh no. Many times. Now, sometimes, yes, she was not having any part of it. But a lot of times she's playing, and all of a sudden I'll stop reading. She's like, Mom, why'd you stop reading? Like I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, I wanted to know what happened in that story. But she just didn't want to sit in my lap to read it. Right. She wanted to do whatever she wanted. Like she wanted to play with those blocks while I was reading the story. It was things like that had surprised me with BookShark, that because I wasn't expecting that. But once again, I'm not a teacher, so it was things that I just like I am learning as well as we go. So that's one of the things, the curriculum like helped prepare me for some of that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I have learned so much homeschooling my kids. I thought I knew a lot, but there's so much more to know. I mean, I will be learning for the rest of my life, and I hope that's what I'd give my children, to become lifelong learners, because that is truly, I think, what makes life worth living. Like, what more can we know? To be curious, to be adventurous, to, like you guys with your travel. Like, I know people, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they've never left their hometown. They that they look at me and think, oh my gosh, all the places you go. And I think, I've only been to so many states. It's not, it's interesting how everyone's comfort level is different. So if you don't want to get a passport and explore the world, at least through books, you can learn about the world. So just because someone doesn't leave the boundaries of, their city limits outside of their comfort zone, you can still learn so much through books about other cultures and places. And to me, I just think that's the most amazing thing ever.
Very much so. If 2020 and 2021 haven't taught us anything about how to be armchair travelers, that's for sure. Even as adults, like when you can't go, pick up a book. It can send you there in a minute. So, and it's been quite I mean, that's what I read. And when, we haven't been able to go anywhere outside of the country in 2 years. So, but you know what? My books will take me there. So it's been very much so. And then it's been neat because then I can tell my daughter about it. And she's like, well, I want to go there one day. I'm like, well, hopefully one day we will.
That's right.
Fingers, don't dare say it out loud.
No. All right. So where will you go from here? You've already said you guys, you did it last year and you're redoing it, which again, I just want to reinforce. I think that's fabulous. I hope more families hear that and are comfortable regurgitating some of the levels that they have for their children. But what's your next step?
So our next step is we are actually moving forward with the kindergarten, with the writing without tears through BookShark. There was the reading enhancement, because like I said, one of the things she's wanting to do is learn how to read. So I hopped on BookShark's website to see what would be the next level from there to build onto what she already has. So in addition to redoing our current curriculum. We are just adding that in. So that way she'll have, and we might like take out some of the things that she might already be kind of like, she knows her letters. So instead of like focusing on that letter of the day, we're going to focus on that letter of the day in a different way. Like, okay, let's find words we can read with that letter of the day or something like that. So we're really excited to start the next chapter with BookShark, which we can't wait to do. So we hopefully will have that in our hands here soon, so we can start that in, because this has all been new development. But that's the nice thing is like you can easily hop on your BookShark's website and see, okay, well, what's next? What else can I add in? What other enhancements can I bring into the table if it's something that your child is interested in? So, and it starts young.
Yeah. I love that you're following her interests. And there are going to be kids and parents of children who listen to this who say, hey, my 4-year-old's not interested in reading yet. Like, that's okay. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer or right or wrong age, even though in our society we have milestones that, we say need to be hit by a certain time. Our curriculum has really proven that early readers are not necessarily better readers by the time they reach middle school to high school, and late readers are not necessarily worse readers because they didn't start reading until they were later on in their educational career. So to be a homeschooler really does mean to embrace what your child needs and then follow their lead as far as what their interests are, and not getting stressed out about standards or must-haves by this time.
No, I agree with that. Well, like when I started this year, I wasn't expecting to teach her how to read. I thought we were still going to be working on letters and sounds, and then this just came out of the blue. And you never know when it's going to happen or when they're going to tell you what they're interested in. In the same breath, she could care less about numbers. So she's like, well, so that's our focus. That's our hard hitter. Like we got to sit there and start working on that. As much as she does not want to, we still have to, keep enforcing that end of the things while, like you said, like following her interest too on reading. So we like the flexibility to be able to do all that, and also like to be able, it's nice to be able to see where she is, where she needs that little bit of extra encouragement and next little bit of extra exercises to help her get where she needs to be.
Yeah. Well, there's always books that have numbers in them. So stories, mathematical stories that maybe she would enjoy. Would enjoy. Yeah. All right. Well, when you are talking to a parent who says, I look at you and you decided to homeschool and I'm kind of toying with the idea, what are some closing thoughts that you would like to share with that parent who is looking for something, but they're not sure what?
Well, the preschool age is probably going to be one that I feel the funnest ages to enjoy homeschooling, because, like you said, it's a lot of play. It's a lot of that time. It, without sounding too sentimental, I love having that time with my daughter right now. I love having that time with her, that special time, watching her grow, watching her interest, watching her eyes light up when she is learning something new. I love that piece of homeschool, and that's something like I would miss when I just thinking like, well, if I'm going to send her to school, then she's going to be going this time to this time, and then like I'll have this much time with her, and I enjoy having that time with her. I enjoy teaching her. I enjoy nurturing her and helping her grow. The other thing I would say is it's easier than you can do it. Like if you're worried about, I can't do this, I'm not a teacher. Well, I wasn't a teacher. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like on Pinterest trying to put together my own preschool program, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I need a preschool homeschool program that can help. I think this is the best way to get your feet wet, to see if this is what you want to do. That's the other thing I have to say, like, because like I didn't know if I wanted to go the homeschool route. And now that I have done this, I'm like, okay, one, I can do it. I know I can teach. And two, I'm seeing if she likes it. Does she like me as the teacher? Because sometimes, I mean, maybe I'm just not cut out. We clash too much or something, but that's not the case. That's not the case in our situation. We absolutely love each other dearly. Sometimes we do bump heads, but that's the beauty of like the homeschool. We just come back to it later. I'm not worried. Like, okay, you know what? This isn't working for us. We'll come back in a few. But I think it's a great program, especially for anyone considering starting off in a homeschool. I mean, try it off before you would even, that's why it's preschool. Like, try it out now before you decide on sending them to the brick and mortar. Like you said, there's no right or wrong way, but picking one that works for you.
Yeah. And the beauty of homeschool too is you can reassess. I mean, you can try and it's just for whatever reason isn't working out. People have to move because of jobs or job changes or life circumstances. Just because you choose to homeschool doesn't mean you can't change your mind. And just because you choose to you thought about homeschooling, but you weren't quite sure. And so you sent your child with a different educational choice, doesn't mean you can't change your mind and bring them back home. I mean, that is the beauty of this whole journey, is that, you grow with it. And so we say in our household, every year we reassess. And if it's not working, then we're going to make a change. And it's being flexible. I think one of the biggest things about homeschool is being flexible, because if you are not flexible or willing to learn how to become flexible, it could be really hard for you and your child.
Very much so. I agree 100%.
Well, Stephanie, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your experience with the pre-K program, the pre-K level of BookShark. We are so happy to hear that it has been positive and that you're going to be continuing on. We want to let our audience know that if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box that we have in this session. If the chat box is no longer there, you can email Main, MAIN, at bookshark.com. We can get those questions answered for you. We'll also put the toll-free phone number in the webinar description. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.